show. You are one-on-one with Wes the Sports Guy here on YouTube and online all the time at westhesportsguy.com. Make sure you bookmark that site to get all the social media links. Also, weekly reviews of the NFL. The NBA season is just about to start. MLB Hot Stove is getting underway. You can get it all there, conveniently located at westhesportsguy.com. Getting right into it this week, I have a little bit of a different theme going into three topics that basically, best way I can sum it up is that it is this week's stupidity in sports.
Are you crazy? Or just plain stupid?
Stupid is stupid does, Mr. Blue.
I guess.
Let's start out with Vanderbilt University, and before I go into the details of the story, I just want to preface it by saying that this is not a dig at the person centered on this story. This is more of a dig at the university and also sports journalists and people that cover sports for a living. This is more of a dig at those two, not the person at the center of this story. Basically, what it all came down to. Last week, Vanderbilt University was playing a road game in the SEC against Missouri, and Vanderbilt ended up losing the game 41-0. What ended up happening was a kicker who was part of the Vanderbilt SEC champion soccer team the week prior, goaltender for that team, was put on the roster as the place kicker. What ended up happening was she appeared in the game, thus being the first woman to play in a Power 5 conference ever. First ever. The story in and of itself is great. It's fantastic. It's a good story to discuss and highlight. However, you would think with the highlight of the story and the way that it all went down that she had attempted a couple kicks, a couple extra points, whatever the case may be. That's not exactly what happened. What happened was she's on the roster due to other place kickers because of lockdowns and a virus going around right now. They didn't have an actual place kicker on the roster. They did have a punter who attempted 7 punts in that game against Missouri, but there were no extra point attempts. There were no field goal attempts for Vanderbilt. They lost 41-0. At halftime, they were down 21-0 to start the second half. Sarah Folder, was put out there to kick off to start the second half. She ended up squibbing the kick, but it's because she was told to squib the kick. She kicked it 30 yards with no possibility of a return. Now, in interest of being a little bit, given the benefit of the doubt here, she was told to kick it 30 yards and squib kick. She did it perfectly. Sure, that's perfectly fine. Not taking anything away from her and what she did and what she was asked to do. She did it to the best of her abilities. Fantastic. But the celebration afterwards that this is something that we should strive to is a bit misleading. Also, I'd like to point out that there were 2 other kickers before Sarah Fuller this year that did play in college football. Granted, not Power 5. There was one kicker that played at the University of New Mexico, another one that played at Kent State. Those 2 actually attempted kicks, extra points. They were not field goal attempts, but extra points nonetheless. Sarah Fuller did none of that. She did not even attempt to tackle somebody on the kickoff, which would have also given more highlight to the fact that she played in a football game. No, she squibbed it 30 yards. That's all she did. Now, again, I do not blame her being at the center of the attention she's getting by both Vanderbilt University, who then fired their head coach the next day, or actually I shouldn't say the next day, but on Monday, after the weekend's games were over with. Vanderbilt is 0-8 right now. This really shouldn't be something to compare to, let's say, Jackie Robinson. So let's step back, look at it on its proper perspective, and realize all she did was kick the ball 30 yards in a squib kick. That's all she did. So again, Vanderbilt and the rest of the sporting world, I give you this.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
Next bout of stupidity this week in sports goes to Denver. Now, the Denver Broncos, if you don't know what happened last week, the Denver Broncos had no active quarterback on their roster for the game at home against the New Orleans Saints. If you had the unfortunate pleasure of watching any part of that game, it was exactly what you expected. It was a crapshoot. It was not a fair game. It was not fair by any stretch of the imagination. The Denver Broncos had to put a practice squad wide receiver who played about 3 seasons worth of quarterback at Wake Forest before getting into the NFL. He was their emergency quarterback. They had nobody else. They only completed one pass the entire game. The Denver Broncos did. One pass. I don't know how they managed to score 3 points in this game, but that in and of itself, the reason why they had no active quarterbacks for this game is, you guessed it, lockdown virus. So, what ended up happening? Well, leading up to the game this last Sunday, on Tuesday we found, not on Tuesday, but we found out the information on Saturday. Starting over. Started out on Saturday, the day before the game. The NFL ruled that the 3 quarterbacks that the Denver Broncos had that never tested positive for said virus were not allowed to play in the game on Sunday. Not any of them. One guy did test positive. Of the 4 quarterbacks on the roster, he was tested positive on Thursday. You were 2 days after the fact. You then were told these guys could not play because of close contact issues with the quarterback who tested positive. Now, when did this quarterback test positive? Jeff Driscoll. He tested positive on Tuesday. Evidently what had happened is that the quarterbacks got together before it was known Jeff Driscoll had tested positive, the other 3 being Drew Lock, Blake Bortles, and Brett Rippon. Those 3 were hanging around with Jeff Driscoll on Tuesday before confirmation of his positive test without wearing a mask and being a little too close to each other in the facility during a quarterback meeting. That is why the NFL said to Denver, you cannot have a quarterback playing on Sunday. Mind you, Jeff Driscoll tested positive, and he was then supposedly kept away from the team when it was confirmed that he tested positive. But because of close contact before the positive test, these guys were told no, even though the 3 quarterbacks in question, Locke, Rippon, and Bortles, tested negative before this game and then after the game. So what does this tell you? This tells you that the NFL is being very haphazardly with something that I said from the beginning. If you choose to wear one, that's fine. If you choose not to, that's fine as well. I understand in the business aspect of this that you're supposed to do what the business tells you to do. But if we're being honest with each other right now, what are the chances these guys are going to cause harm to each other over something that is in fact going to have a 99.8% survival rate if they happen to get it, when we're going to punish them for not adhering to the workplace environment? Are we going to be honest with ourselves about this at any point going forward? Because we need to start having that kind of discussion sooner rather than later. But in the end, I give you the stupidity of this story to the Shield and its commissioner.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
And the final story for stupidity in sports this week goes to Santa Clara County, where the all-knowing powers that be of Santa Clara County, whether it be the politicians, health directors, public health officials, whatever you want to call them, they said that all contact sports from the lowest levels of, if they still play or are allowed to play Pee Wee football in Santa Clara County, it started there, and it went all the way up to basketball, hockey. San Jose Sharks plays in this county, all the way up to the NFL and the San Francisco 49ers and the University of Stanford as well. They cannot play their sport in the county for a maximum of 20, 21 days, whatever the county decreed. This is getting insane. This is getting absolutely insane, because this entire time the Niners have been playing without fans in the stands. Everybody involved in those games, with no fans, mind you, have been tested constantly leading up to and after the games. Why is this going to make any difference? I asked that question because there was an article that highlighted the top doctor for the NFL that said there's no evidence of in-play COVID spread anywhere in the world. I will read you his quote. "We have seen zero evidence of transmission player to player on the field, either during games or practices," which I think is an important and powerful statement. Dr. Sills quoted. And it also confirms what other sports leagues have found around the world. We regularly communicate with World Rugby, Australian rules football, European soccer leagues. To date, no one has a documented case of player-to-player transmission in a field sporting environment. Obviously, I don't think we're at the point where we'd say it cannot occur, but none of us have seen yet, and that's certainly encouraging. So with that evidence that we have this entire time, including bubbles of close contact sports, of basketball, baseball, hockey, not a single case, not a single one. So with no evidence whatsoever, Santa Clara County says you can't do this. What's even stupider about this is you're telling these teams who are now going to play out of state that their traveling parties, which could number in the couple hundred at least, you're now going to travel to another place of the country, potentially spread this with the travel that's kind of restricted in some parts of the country. So ask that question. How does this make this any safer? When you already were playing without fans in the stands. But besides the Santa Clara County stupidity, the 49ers and the University of Stanford have amassed huge assets at their disposal. They should, and I implore them to, sue the pants off of this county, the state, whoever it is. You want to know why? Because everybody else is suffering with it too. The 49ers and Stanford University should be ashamed of themselves. I'm ashamed to call myself a Niner fan. They're pissed. I know they're pissed. Even the public reaction from what they've said in statements tells me they're pissed. They only found out about it when they were about to play a game last Sunday down in LA against the Rams. Again, no fans in the stands there either. But this is ridiculous. People are suffering from the insane edicts of people that are not doing this for safety. They're doing this for power and money. It's simple as that. Sure, we didn't know about all this in March and April, but enough is enough. There's a constitution in this country. Frisco and Stanford should sue the pants off of these people on unconstitutional edicts. Simple as that. Others do not have these kind of assets to do it right now. 49ers and Stanford does. Do something about it because it helps everybody. Not just you, it will help everybody because it gets thrown out. Enough is enough. Make a stand, will you?
Stupid! You're so stupid!
On a lighter note, it's time for my NFL Game of the Week.
You play to win the game.
But they are who we thought they were. And we let them off the hook.
Cannot play with them. Cannot win with them. Cannot coach with them. Can't do it.
You'll be surprised to see that one of the teams involved in this Game of the Week of the NFL, as we're getting pretty close to the last quarter of the season, you never thought you'd see it in the last 10, even 20 years really, but the Cleveland Browns are part of my NFL Game of the Week as they go to Tennessee to take on the Tennessee Titans in a battle of two 8-3 teams. The Cleveland Browns are thoroughly entrenched in second place right now in the AFC North, comfortable 2 games ahead of the Baltimore Ravens, but they are still 3 games back of the undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Tennessee Titans sit atop first place in the AFC South after easily defeating the Indianapolis Colts last week to get a game up on them in that division clash. But going into this week, 8-3 teams, Cleveland Browns, pretty solid defense for the most part this year. Offense, it's kind of been a hit or miss, mainly with Baker Mayfield at quarterback, but if they run the football, they can almost guarantee themselves a victory because they have a pretty good combo in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt going into that running game. When I look at the Tennessee side of things, they need to rush the passer. That's been their biggest Achilles heel on defense this entire season. The coverage units are great, good run stuffing for the most part, but they do not get a good job of rushing the passer. They need to do better, and they have been of late, especially against Phillip Rivers and the Indianapolis Colts. They did a pretty good job of that. But going into this game, they need to do that, cause Baker Mayfield to make plays, shut down the running game as best you can, because if I'm Cleveland, you better be running that ball if you want to win. And then in Tennessee with the offensive side, just keep giving the ball to Derrick Henry, who's probably going to be the rushing champion at the end of the season when all is said and done. He also could get some MVP votes, not saying he's going to win, but the way he's playing for the Titans of late, it is the main reason why they're sitting alone in first place right now in the AFC South. So that, I give you, is the, for sure, Game of the Week, not just from my perspective, but many others. And if you like that Game of the Week, make sure you hit a like, leave a comment down below on the video, and subscribe and hit that bell while you're at it as well. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, hit that bell down below to get notified when all the latest videos are posted here on this channel. Bookmark westthesportsguy.com. All the social media links are there. I'm also on BitChute. I'm also on Rumble. It's all linked for you there at westthesportsguy.com. Subscribe, hit that bell at those places as well. Use the hashtag #OneOnOneWes, and I will see you next time.